Hey everybody, and welcome to the SB Nation Bracket War Room live, presented by Great Clips. It's gonna be great. Yeah, go get your haircut there. They're wonderful. My name is Dan Rubenstein. We've got an all-star crew at this table. We'll start at the end. Ricky O'Donnell, SB Nation college basketball editor. He's our floor general. We've got Nick Fasulo. I'm doing great. I got some green tea. Nick Fasulo, SB Nation college basketball contributor, and of course, Kareth Burke. You've seen her cover UConn for SNY, contributor to the Pac-12 network, and so many more things all around great humans. So, how are we doing tonight? How are we feeling?
How are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm feeling pretty good. I just got back from New Orleans, and I've got all sorts of things happening in my system in very positive ways. I've got energy, and we've got a great show for you tonight. We're going to check in with the real experts. As you know, the person that wins your office bracket pool is probably somebody who's just filling it out blindly. And so we've got all sorts of people that will be filling out blind brackets in our office, knowing nothing about college basketball. So we've got a focus group to see what the real experts in your office are thinking. And we also have our gambling expert, Mike Quinn, coming in. We're going to talk to him about the value buys in the tournament, where there could be some inefficiencies, make some money if you're into that sort of thing. But first, let's start talking about the best teams in the bracket. Let's talk about the 1 seeds. So we've got Gonzaga, North Carolina, Kansas, and Villanova. And we'll start with you, Ricky. Everybody's flawed. That's just, it's college basketball. We've seen all these teams play. We know what they're good at. These teams are good at pretty much everything. But of these 4 number 1 seeds, whose flaw is, I guess, most pronounced?
I do think that this year, all of the number 1 seeds deserve their placement on the bracket. To me, though, if you're looking ahead towards the deeper rounds of the tournament, in which of these number 1 seeds are flawed, I look at Gonzaga, first of all. Who do they have as a wing defender? If they're playing someone like Jonathan Isaac in their region on Florida State, it's just a big wing who can score from all 3 levels. Gonzaga kind of small on the perimeter. They start 3 guys about 6'3". I always think the wing stopper is the toughest thing to get for a school in the West Coast Conference for sort of a mid-major
But they do
school.
protect the rim really well.
They
Gonzaga,
do. Yeah. But, you know, if they face Justin Jackson on North Carolina, who guards him? If they face Josh Hart on Villanova, who guards him? Jonathan Isaac on Florida State, who guards him? And I think that that's going to be a question they're going to have to answer as the tournament goes on.
Nick, what are you concerned about of these top teams?
I'd be a little concerned about Kansas.
Okay, why?
They're a little thin up front as well, and there's things going on off the court that make me a little worried. I'm not saying it will translate into the tournament, but at the same time, they are down a few big men. They have one of the best guards in the country, but I'm not totally sold on Kansas as I was maybe 3-4 weeks ago.
Kareth, where are you looking at this bracket and saying, I don't know about that?
I don't know if it's a fatal flaw, but for Gonzaga, they're a question mark because every year when you hear this is Gonzaga's year, they're the most complete team, which I feel like they are this year. As far as Gonzaga terms, they have 1 loss, but where do they play? Who do they play?
Right.
Okay, I get it. Like, you don't want to be Sideshow Bob hitting the rakes every time somebody tells you, yeah, this is the year for Gonzaga.
Sure.
I don't know. I like their defense. I like their guard play. I like their bigs.
They just really haven't played anybody since like December, early January.
Yes, I have a stat though, Dan. I have a stat if I could find it.
Sorry, Gales.
Well, because that's
St.
the thing.
Mary's,
When they play in the West Coast Conference, it's like, okay, some of those teams that you play are like high school gyms. No disrespect. And Gonzaga tries with strength of schedule. They had that this season. But if you wonder, well, how are they going to do against the ACC? How are they going to do against these major conferences? Let me find it for you.
Yes.
In the last 5 years, the Zags are 28-13 against these big teams. So give them the opportunity. I like that they have a 1 seed, but they better make the most of it.
So you mentioned being tested. Nick's talking about maybe distractions and size, and Ricky mentioning the defense on the perimeter. So when you look as a whole, what are the things, and we talked about nuggets, what are the things in this tournament, what are the attributes of teams that really excite you about a team that could potentially go far and maybe worry you a little bit between, let's say, size, defense, scoring, shooting from the outside, coaching, experience, facing a rigorous schedule. Like Michigan State played literally everybody that's really good in November and December, and they're tested, but now we sort of know a little bit more about Michigan State than maybe we should.
They have no confidence anymore.
Right, now they have no confidence and are lost offensively. So to you, and we'll start with you, Kareth, where are the nuggets that are most important to you?
Ooh, Nuggets. All right, a little bit nerdy, but I like a team that leads its league in assists.
Okay.
To me, that tells me,
Team ball.
I know,
I like it.
honestly, because it tells me that you can move the ball, your offense is running, and if something were to happen in the tournament, an injury, I think those teams are better equipped to to regroup from that sort of thing.
You'd make for a very good old ex-NBA
I'm
player.
just kind of, I know, I like
No,
assist.
that's
I
okay.
think
ATO
that
status,
to me,
right?
Absolutely.
good passing, nice crispy passes.
Okay.
So it gets me excited.
Nick, what is it for you? I know you sort of deep dove some lower seeds who have won. What are some common threads of teams that you like that perhaps go farther than or further than
So one of
people
these years,
expect?
I'm going to finally get all those double-digit seed upsets right.
Sure.
Like most elusive.
Oh,
thing
it'll
in-
definitely
it's the most
happen.
elusive thing in sports, right?
Uh-huh.
But I think what I've noticed is you have to be good at defense. You have to play slow. If you play fast, you're going to
Interesting.
too helter-skelter. You got to slow it down so you limit the other team's possessions.
Perhaps a little less athletic than the more talented
exactly.
teams. Yeah.
And then you got to shoot the ball well. So no real shock. But what you want to do is go to like KenPom.com or one of those advanced stats websites. And figure out which teams are in that world. There's like 3 right now that really have a chance this year. But those 3 things, if you play good defense, you're slow, and you can shoot, even 2 of those 3, you have a very good chance of pulling off an upset as an 11 to 14 seed.
As far as a fan, though, a slow game and a defensive game, what do you think?
I mean, that's not exciting, but
We're here to win,
We're here to
brackets,
win.
Gareth. We're here to win.
tell
Ricky.
any coach that wants that next big job, they'll play whatever style they need to play to win.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Ricky, what do you look for when you're looking to separate either very good teams or maybe very good teams?
Sure, in March, I always like a team with great guard play, preferably upperclassmen at point guard. The last 4 national champions have started 2 point guards in the backcourt. You could go back to Tyus Jones and Quinn Cook at Duke, Shabazz Napier and Ryan Boatwright at UConn. We see it happen time and time again, and if I'm looking at these teams in this brackets, I want to know who has great point guard play. If you got 2, that's better than 1.
Absolutely. All right, before we get into the expertise of these 3, we'll get into the expertise of the smartest people in every single office, our focus group, to break down. Let's start with the first region. Take a look at this focus group.
I've assembled you guys, my most basketball ignorant coworkers, to help me fill out a bracket, and you can go off whatever logic pleases you. Even if you know nothing about March Madness, you actually know best based on all of my experience. Vesta, do you know anything about what we're doing here? Any March Madness insight you can bring to the table?
I went to UCLA.
Okay, so
That's
they're in the
it.
tournament.
I went to NYU, which is like the worst sports school in the country.
Fantastic.
I thought this was NBA. I'm not from around here, I'm from England, so
I don't really care about sports.
Fantastic, we're doing great.
okay.
So we're gonna start with the East region.
Oh wait, are all the East schools on one side?
Great question. So the bracket is just divided up based on where they're gonna be playing the games, not so much where the teams
Where
are
they're
coming
from. Okay,
Yeah,
that's gonna
fantastic question. All right, let's jump into it.
I think that's going to be great. I think that bracket is going to turn out wonderfully well and definitely better than mine or literally anybody who watches a ton of college basketball. So with that said, let's start with the East. An interesting region. I wouldn't say it's the toughest region, but still pretty tough. Let's start with the matchups that intrigue us the most. I guess let's start with Wisconsin, Virginia Tech. We've got good coaching there. We've got a couple of stars involved. So, Ricky, we'll start with you. Wisconsin, Virginia Tech. What jumps out, I believe it's the 8-9 game there, about this matchup?
First of all, it's just remarkable Virginia Tech's in this position in their second year under Buzz Williams.
Yeah.
This is a team that's made the NCAA tournament once in the last 20 years. He's remodeled that program so quickly.
Always a last team out.
Always.
Seth Greenberg. Always. That's just what they do.
It starts with Zach Leday up front. He's a really good two-way big man. We saw him show how talented he is against John Collins and Wake Forest in the ACC tournament. Also, Seth Allen, a transfer from Maryland, has been really good for them. That's a team I look at with not a lot of holes in the starting lineup. I'm tempted to take Virginia Tech in this game, despite the fact that we haven't seen them in the NCAA tournament. I just think that they do a lot of things well, and they don't take much off the table.
All right, Nick, Wisconsin does have a star there. Anything that
Ethan Happ, yeah.
Yes.
He's a very good player. I mean, they returned everyone from last year. We expected them to be a 2, maybe a 1 seed this year, and it hasn't really panned out that way. I would favor Wisconsin just based on the talent they have and experience they have. But again, Virginia Tech is good. I don't think either of those teams can advance to the Sweet 16. It's just 1 point in your bracket. I know you want to get every game right.
Right.
I would go Wisconsin, but don't lose your breath. Don't lose sleep over it.
Kareth, either one of these teams going deep in your bracket?
No. No.
Good
'cause
answer.
Either one runs into Villanova.
Okay, Nick, you mentioned teams playing slowly and deliberately and playing good defense.
Yeah.
UNC Wilmington is not that team.
They're not.
They score in a ton
And
of
they're
bunches.
good. They're very good, but this is a bad matchup for them.
This is a bad matchup because Virginia is that team that plays
This is what
as
you're talking
slow as
the
anybody.
last team that you would want Wilmington to play. And I think a lot of people are going to take Wilmington because Virginia had a down year.
Right.
But again, bad matchup for them. I'd go with the Cavaliers.
You'd go Virginia here. Ricky, agree, disagree?
I like Wilmington in this.
Whoa!
Oh, boy.
I like it, I like it, I like it.
Kevin Keats, former Louisville assistant, he's gotten Wilmington to the NCAA tournament his first 2 years. Last year, they almost took out Duke. People forget that in their opening round game. I think it's just a team that scores efficiently. It's a team that can hit shots all over the court. And I wouldn't be surprised if there's someone who pulls off an upset and you see their head coach, Kevin Keats, as someone who gets a bigger job in the next season.
They always play in the tournament so well, and they make sure that they schedule ACC teams. You have a lot of guys.
So there's that tested thing.
Well, there you go. I think they have like 8 or 9 guys from the state of North Carolina. So they saw, they didn't get those recruitments from ACC teams. They play with a chip on their shoulder. It's fun, like schoolyard basketball. That game will be a fight, even though it is that offensive-defensive clash.
We'll stay in the Carolinas, South Carolina, Marquette. 2 schools, Frank Martin obviously is a household name at this point in the college basketball coaching world. Marquette, the former team of Buzz Williams. Do any of you like either of these teams to any sort of significant degree? A great name in this matchup, Sindarius.
Sindarius versus the world.
Yeah, Sindarius versus the world. Thornwell. So either one of these teams doing anything for either of you in a big way?
I mean, Marquette's the best three-point shooting team in America.
Okay.
Like 4 or 5 guys that shoot over 40%. You always have to respect that. If they're hitting shots, they're going to win.
Sure.
Right? I mean.
Yeah, I kind of like South Carolina, again, going back to the good guard play.
Yeah.
Our boy, Sindarius Thornwell, has been one of the 20, 25 best players in the country the whole season. He's got great size, too, at 6'5". He's paired in the backcourt with PJ Dozier, former McDonald's All-American, again, great size at 6'6". That's a tough guard matchup for any team to go against, especially Marquette, who's kind of small in the perimeter.
Fair enough. And, I mean, how do you talk about this region? You talk about the 3 teams on everybody's mind right now. Duke coming in, perhaps the hottest team in the country. You've got Villanova, the #1 overall seed. And, of course, everybody can't stop talking SMU and Shemmy.
Love SMU.
Of these 3 teams, where is your confidence? We've got the defending champion. We've got the hottest team coming in, the momentum thing that doesn't exist. And we've got an SMU team that haven't really been tested.
SMU was kind of cool. Yeah, they're in the American.
Yes.
They're 30-4. They've had their best season. They have, I'll go back to the chip on your shoulder. Larry Brown resigned. Okay, he's done. They have a first-year head coach. They're in a conference that doesn't get a lot of attention. I feel like they're ripe to be like a welcome to the party kind of 6 seed. Like they have the postseason ban. I feel like they're ready to
They have a star.
Yeah, I feel like they're ready to show America this is who we are.
Haven't played anybody since, I believe, Cincinnati a few weeks ago.
They have 4 losses, though, and they haven't lost until since January 12th, though. We do need to respect their win streak. They've got something good going on.
What do you love? I know one of you, I believe, has SMU going deep in this
deep?
tournament, I believe.
And I have SMU over Duke.
Yeah,
I love it.
I can't commit to that just yet. I need another day, but I think both of us are on board with them.
Why are you guys so on board with SMU?
Let me give you the elevator pitch, I guess.
Please do.
Yeah.
5 starters between 6'6" and 6'8", kind of a modern basketball team. Everyone the same size. Everyone can handle the ball. They have 4 40% three-point shooters. You want a team that can pull it upset, you better hit threes. They can do that. Also, Semi Ojeleye, who we mentioned, former Duke transfer. If he sees his team, former team, in the NCAA tournament, that would be a great storyline. They also have a breakout point guard, Shake Milton, 6'6", shoots the ball well. I just really like this SMU team. Again, I don't see a lot of holes in their starting lineup. They have a very short rotation, so an injury could certainly be a question mark. They're mostly going to play 5-6 guys. But when you have a team that shoots well at every position, you have a stud in the front court in Ojeleye, you have a star in the back court in Shake Milton. I think that that's a recipe for a team that could go, win a game or 2.
And these are not just spot-up shooters like the 4 of us probably were growing up. These are like guys that can get to the rim and shoot the three-pointer, and that's rare in college basketball right now.
What is Duke's ceiling at this point? They are coming together like no team is coming together at the moment, running through the ACC tournament, now bringing Grayson Allen off the bench. They've got many NBA players potentially on this lineup. Luke Kennard, who nobody thought would become a star, is now leading the team in scoring. So what do you see Duke ceiling-wise? Are they a Final Four team just in how they're playing now?
I would say no ceiling for Duke.
No ceiling.
Lil Wayne.
Sure.
The thing is that they have such a
ceiling
strong...
is the roof.
The ceiling, I was like, that's the...
Yeah.
They have such a strong perimeter attack.
Yeah.
Grayson Allen, yes, he's had an up and down year, but when he's locked in, we saw him hit 6 threes against North Carolina earlier in this season. He can still be a great player. Luke Kennard, unbelievable jump his sophomore season. He's been their best player the entire year when he was thought to be the 7th man coming into the season. And then you look at Jason Tatum. Jason Tatum's been on an absolute tear lately. He was one of those guys who was a top 3 recruit coming into this season. Started off a little shaky, had an injury to begin the year. He scored over 20 points in every single ACC tournament game. He sort of follows in that line of big Duke wings. You go Jabari Parker, Justice Winslow, Brandon Ingram. Jason Tatum's that next guy. He's going to be a top 5 draft pick for a reason. He's really been showing how talented he is late in the year.
Yeah, really cool evolution for a freshman there. The question mark for Duke to me is Grayson Allen. Is he going to be an emotional wrecking ball, or can he get out of everyone's way, enjoy that spark plug role off the bench, and be that guy who can some threes? Or Coach K likes to say energy makes energy. So if Grayson comes and messes stuff up on the court in a good way, like, he could be that guy that gets the team.
Chaos has been a good word.
Coach K
always say that.
He did say energy.
That is no sillier than the ceiling.
No, I know. He loves Grayson Allen. He loves Grayson Allen. And he's the kind of guy you want, I guess, on your team, I suppose. Would you want to play against a wacko guy like that? You might get tripped. You might get 2 technicals in your conference tournament.
Sure.
I don't know. Grayson Allen, to me, like, I hope he doesn't screw things up.
The ultimate wild card.
Sure.
The ultimate wild. Okay, so Villanova's in this region, and Villanova won the national championship last year. They lost a couple of big names, but they return a lot. Most notably, Josh Hart, huge name, and had a big season for the Wildcats. To what degree do we like Villanova at this point coming into the tournament as the #1 overall seed? Nick? The floor is yours.
Thank you. We still got to like them. We still got to love them. I mean, they lost a few guys, obviously, from last year, but they've proven that they can win big, win close. I mean, they had a lot of
different ways.
Yeah, different ways. They had a lot of close games that they pulled out from behind. I mean, they're still very impressive. And Jalen Brunson, don't forget, you had Arcidiacono last year, and everyone loved him. But Brunson came in off the bench, and now he's a starter. He's just as good as Arcidiacono and has an actual pro career in front of him. So I really like their backcourt a lot. They're just as talented. They're probably more talented than they were last year.
Kareth, you covered UConn teams that year in and year out had to meet expectations. So Villanova's coming back after finally breaking through after so many disappointing tournaments. What is this year going to be, or this year's tournament run going to be like for Villanova with that sort of on their back?
I think people are talking about the pressure of repeating, but I think because they've been there before and the way that they won a buzzer beater, I mean, they had some heart-pounding moments. I think they're more equipped to handle this type of thing. I think they're great. They keep the same even keel mentality that they've had all season, knowing what they've weathered, knowing who they have, and Josh Hart, as a leader for the team. Just talking about this, when we were talking about the 1 seeds, I think Villanova was the team that we mentioned the least as far as storylines and whatever. Is it possible for a 1 seed, a team that was ranked once, to be under the radar? Is that just our little
It feels
sphere?
like it is,
Doesn't it feel kind of strange? It's like, oh yeah, Villanova, they could do something incredible in NCAA tournament history, and it's sort of like, oh yeah, okay.
This is right. So who's coming out of the region? Real quick.
I have Villanova.
Villanova. Nick?
SMU.
SMU, I like it. Kareth?
Nova.
I'm going Villanova as well.
Yeah.
I'm going Nova. I think they're able to pull it
But all
out.
3 of those teams clearly could win this region.
Absolutely. Absolutely they could. We're now going to head out west. The Western region. How do you think this sort of compares to the other regions? We can go through some of the teams in here. Of course, Gonzaga, Arizona, 2 teams that played early on in the season when Arizona was a bit shorthanded. Melo Trimble's here. Melo Trimble's here to win an inexplicable game on a stupid shot. That's just how it works. So matchup-wise, Notre Dame, perhaps the best half-court offense in the country, is in this region going against Princeton, and of course, Northwestern Vanderbilt. So we'll start there. Northwestern is a story. This game is sort of interesting, but is it going to ultimately mean anything? Kareth?
It will for the sports writers across America
It will.
who want you to know that they went to Northwestern. And
Yep.
if you want sort of like the new Ashley Judd this year, it's Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
This
whose
is true.
son plays for that team. So I think Northwestern, great story. They're going to have a lot of talk, but I don't know how far they go.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that. Ricky, this Notre Dame team, they play a very specific style, and that style does not involve a lot of height.
No.
Does that scare you?
Well, it scares you to an extent, but you have to remember, Notre Dame, very quietly, they've gone to the Elite Eight the last 2 years. This is one of the most consistent programs in college basketball. I think Mike Bray is among the most underrated coaches in the sport. He's someone who sort of realized the pace and space aspect of the way the game is trending before everyone else did. The player to watch for Notre Dame, Bonzi Colston, 6'5" center. Someone who could only excel in the college game. He has absolutely no neck, but he's got a lot of heart, and he's got a lot of game. He shoots threes, he plays defense, he passes well. He is really broken out in his junior year as a legitimate star. He's been one of the 15 best players in the country throughout the season. I wouldn't be surprised if Notre Dame makes another run because, Princeton, undefeated in the Ivy League.
Sure.
Very good team. I like this Irish team, though. Their offense can really put points on you, and Mike Bray has said this is his best defensive team since he's been there.
Nick, are you as enthusiastic about the Irish?
I am. I think if they can get back to their 3rd straight Elite Eight. I think they can beat Gonzaga. Again, Princeton may be a trendy pick, but I think the way Notre Dame plays, that's a bad matchup for those Tigers. So I would take the Irish to advance there and then play deep into the second weekend.
Carrot, the team that comes in with a ton of momentum, which is not real, but they do come in with a ton of momentum. Arizona just wins the Pac-12 tournament. They're the 2 seed out west. To what degree do you like the mismatch of Lauri Markkanen? Lauri Markkanen, yeah. And Alonzo Trier, who sat out the beginning part of the season for some unfortunate circumstances. So is this Arizona team as dangerous, perhaps, as their seed indicates?
Yes, and I don't think a lot of people watch them this year. So Arizona might be the splashiest, oh my goodness, where did they come from team.
Right.
The West Coast people will say, hey, okay, now we're going to win our bracket because we've got them going so far. Markkanen is awesome. He's a 7-foot Finnish guy. He can dunk. He can shoot 3-pointers.
Yep.
Like, when you read about him, he's from an athletic family. He said he had I read this, he didn't tell me this, that he had,
I called him.
When he was 12, he had a diary of all the shots he would take in his yard and with his dad, and he would spend 4 hours a day shooting. I mean, it's fun to watch basketball.
That's
Let's watch
ridiculous.
it. Yeah,
4-hour diary of shots. Okay.
There you go.
I like it.
Watch the shots that he gets. He's in great position.
Ricky, what is Arizona beyond Markkanen?
I think this Arizona team in general is just a great story. No team in the country has gone through as much adversity as Arizona this year, I think. You can look at the beginning of the season when they have a commitment from Terrence Ferguson, who's one of the best freshmen in the incoming class. He decides to play professionally in Australia instead. That's
last minute. Like, it was not like all of the sudden in June, it was, oh, I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
That's followed up by the early retirement of Ray Smith. That's the most heartbreaking story of the college basketball season. Ray Smith tore his ACL 3 years in a row, retired at the age of 19. He was a 5-star recruit, 6'8", really bouncy forward. And then they're missing Alonzo Trier, who's the Pac-12 preseason player of the year for the first 20 games of the season. Yet Sean Miller, arguably the best coach in the country. He's been coaching him up the whole season. He's gotten to this point. They've relied on the 3 freshmen. It's not just Markkanen. It's also Kobe Simmons, Raleigh Alkins, 2 guards in the backcourt with great size, great athleticism. Now that Trier's back, we saw in the Pac-12 tournament, this team, when they're firing on all cylinders, they have the talent to compete with anyone.
And one of the teams that they didn't quite compete with when the season was beginning, Gonzaga, the #1 seed in this region, certainly has NBA talent, player of the year type talent in the backcourt. So how far can this team go? Is this a better Gonzaga team than we've seen in years past, Nick?
I do think it is.
Okay.
Like I said, I do think Notre Dame gets past them.
Okay.
But Gonzaga is good, everyone. You don't have to not pick them to go deep in this tournament. They can go to the Final Four. They have guys at most spots on the floor that can beat you. Shamit Karnowski is a great big man.
Yep.
Nigel Williams-Goss, Washington transfer, great point guard. Not super athletic, but he's pretty physical. He can get into the lane.
Perfect for what they do.
Yeah. And I think that they are solid. They did beat Arizona earlier this year, and a lot of people are looking at Arizona as a potential trendy title pick. Gonzaga beat them. It was a different Arizona team, but they've shown that they can beat real teams. There's nothing to shy away from Gonzaga except for the fact it's just in your head, really, is what I'm trying to say.
West Coast native Kareth Burke, Gonzaga, Arizona. Who gets that lean?
I really like Gonzaga, but I picked Arizona.
You picked
this
Arizona.
year. I did.
I have Arizona in this region. Ricky?
I have Arizona as well.
I do too.
4-way Zona. I like it. Very nice. We've got some interesting regions to get to, including I believe it's the South, that it's the toughest one. But before that, let's get back to our focus group to tell us what is what. I am listening and I'm taking notes.
It has never happened, I'll tell you that much.
We should go with Villanova.
How's everyone else feel?
Wait, they put the best one with the worst one?
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Why would they
That's
do
not fair.
that? That's just rude.
It is pretty rude. I never thought about that. Tails to Virginia. Virginia it is. We're picking the higher seed. Sorry, guys.
I like
Good Lord.
SMU, personally. Just
Why?
Why?
anything with just like the initials.
So we have Duke beating SMU,
Yeah, and then Villanova.
but then
beating
Villanova is
Duke.
going to beat Duke. So our Final Four participant out of the East is the 1 seed, Villanova. You went kind of chalk after all of that.
Yeah.
I'm taking this seriously.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to, like, at the end of this, be like, I won.
I'm going to put a lot of money on you guys. Next up, we're going to go to the top right, the Midwest bracket. And again, that's just where they're playing, not where the teams come from. Who would win, a team of Wolves or
Cyclone.
How big,
Cyclone
how,
will
how big are
win.
the Cyclones? You know, how large is wolf pack is it?
you know, normal size? You got like a dozen wolves. We should know Rebecca is a Vermont native.
Yeah. I mean, I have to, on principle, choose them.
Vermont it is.
Yeah.
Let's do it. Creighton versus Oregon. Creighton's a 6 seed.
Which one lost their ACLU?
Oregon? An Oregon player tore his ACL.
Is he a big? Is he like a?
I think we should go with not that person.
Yeah. I like the name Creighton a lot. I've never heard it
Sounds
before.
British.
Yeah.
It's
Is
just
there
cool.
a place called Creighton in
Probably.
Creighton to the top.
Let's do it.
All right. Coming out of the Midwest bracket, our Final Four team is number 6, Creighton.
There's so much information to be gleaned. There's so much knowledge.
more of
It's so condensed, and I'm learning so much about torn ACLUs. I mean, where else can you get information like that? Let's move to the Midwest, which I would say is a region of extremes. Like there are no teams that I think beyond Kansas, perhaps, that you could describe as excellent and complete. I don't think there is that team that you could say, wow, that's a clear 1 versus 2 in like the regional final. But between Louisville playing great defense, Michigan shooting the hell out of the ball, Oklahoma State, having a star in Jalen Evans. You have Oregon, who made it to the Elite Eight last year. Iona scores a ton. Creighton scores a ton. Purdue is super disciplined. Iowa State is super disciplined with a star in the backcourt. Michigan State is Michigan State, and they have a superstar coach. Miami has a great coach.
Take a breath.
And Kansas is pretty great across the board. So, which games in this region do you think, let's start at the top half of the region. Is it Iowa State, Nevada, Purdue, Vermont? Actually, let's start with Miami, Michigan State, because those are 2 big name teams. So Nick, we'll start with you. What do you make of that matchup?
I think you always got to look at Michigan State because they have Tom Izzo.
Yep.
But they're just not that good this year. I mean, they could definitely win this game, win a game. But I do like Miami's defense. They're one of the best defensive teams in the country, one of the tops in the ACC.
And they slow it down.
Slow it down. They're pretty athletic. I think that, again, the tournament's about matchups. This isn't a great matchup for Michigan State. I think because of the errors and the fact that they turn the ball over a lot, Miami is probably going to force them into a lot of turnovers, and I think that they get the win here.
All right.
Such a soft spot. Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
for
it's
Tom's
okay.
teams.
No,
That's
listen,
okay.
we love you, Tom.
Yep.
Ricky, when you look at the bracket, what games jump out to you as just interesting matchups early?
Yeah, I like that Nevada-Iowa State game. Iowa State's been playing some great ball lately. They won the Big 12
There's a lot of
tournament.
talent in this
They
game.
seem to win the Big 12 tournament every single year. However, I took Nevada in this game, and I got Nevada in the Sweet 16.
I love it.
I don't know why you did that.
Why not?
Why?
I'll tell you why.
What is it about Nevada?
Nevada's got 3 stud players, and I
Okay.
think that that's something that a lot of teams from a conference like that wouldn't have. It starts with Cam Oliver, an NBA prospect in the front court, 6'8", 235-pound big man, super athletic, can shoot threes. That's the type of player that like a school like Nevada should just not have. but they
Matchup
do.
nightmare.
They
Yeah.
also have Jordan Caroline, who's another really big, athletic, skilled forward. That's Simeon Rice's kid, so you know he's got some good genes. And their leading scorer is Marcus Marshall, who's averaging 20 points a game this year, someone who fills it up from deep. Just that trio of talent at the top of their roster. I don't know if the Ken Pom numbers agree with it, if the Nick Fasulo numbers agree with it, but that's a really talented
You're going against the grain, Ricky. The algorithm says no. But
Trust the algorithm.
no, Nevada is good. I really like what Iowa State's been doing in the
Right.
last month of the season. I think they're 11-2 in the
Incredibly well coached.
Yeah,
they do not turn the ball over at
last.
all.
Good coach, great point. I mean, Monty Morris is just such a savvy senior point guard. Burton's come on really strong. I still take Iowa State in that game.
Kareth, Oregon is without one of its most exciting players in Chris Boucher, who did tear his ACLU, according to the video I just watched. But it is a sad story because he was one of their excellent rim protectors, and they're one of the more complete teams in the country. They play very good defense. They've got sort of upperclassmen stars. So what do you make of this Oregon team as a 3 seed, perhaps getting Creighton or Rhode Island, 2 talented teams, if they're able to get past their first round matchup against Iona?
A lot of people look at Boucher as just a shot blocker, but
Right.
his role on defense is so important. And we saw at the Pac-12 conference championship when they, learned that they wouldn't play with him.
Right.
The players said that they were just shell-shocked.
Heartbroken,
So
yeah.
do they come around that point and remind themselves who they are, or do they let that dismantle them? Because Boucher also had the rebounds, he had the steals. So
Yep.
I don't know what's going to happen there. I think Oregon is deep enough and experienced enough to get past this, but I'm actually kind of curious about what this is going to be. I hope they don't reel from it, because it's just one player.
Sure.
This was a very important player for them.
Fair enough. The 2 of you both like Oregon as well, even without Boucher. I know you might have them losing a little earlier than Nick, but Oregon has the Pac-12 Player of the Year in Dylan Brooks. They were in the Elite Eight last year, so they're tested. They have a coach I think a lot of people respect as a scheme guy. What is Oregon's ceiling without Boucher?
I mean, pre-Boucher injury, I thought that they could win it all. They were my pick. I still think they have a good shot to go deep because remember, Boucher doesn't start. I mean, he is their 6th man, so it's
About
not like
20
you're
minutes a game, yeah.
You're not losing your best scorer, so it sounds bad, but it's not terrible. I said this last night. I think everyone just has to play a little bit better. The challenge, again, though, is he is a unique player, kind of like a Markkanen on Arizona.
Right.
it's hard to defend him, and he can defend a taller, more versatile guy on your team. Now they don't have that. So that is the hole. But again, he only plays about half the game this year. So it's not as detrimental as I think some people are making it out to be.
Like
Ricky, how does this affect what you thought of Oregon? Or did it at all?
Yeah, I think it does take him down at least a step, but you have to remember that this is a team that's been playing small the whole year.
Yep.
Dylan Brooks, a nominal shooting guard, small forward, he's been playing the 4 for him. As you said, Boucher was coming off the bench. They're starting 3 guards. So this Oregon team, they really play like an NBA team, modern NBA team. If you're looking for, the pace and space type of setup in March Madness, it's on Dylan Brooks to me. We need Dylan Brooks to be one of the best players in America for the Oregon Ducks to go on a run.
And
Which he
he's
is.
capable of doing that. He seems like he wants that responsibility.
Right, and we could potentially have a championship rematch early on in this with Michigan potentially meeting Louisville. So Louisville, a team led by defense, and they just lock everybody down. Michigan led by, they're going to shoot. Derek Walton and that team, they are going to shoot. So between those two teams, Michigan riding high with a really exciting Big Ten tournament, I would say, despite the adversity coming in. And Louisville, maybe a little bit under the radar, but they're going to do what Rick Pitino teams do, and that's lock everybody down. So, Kareth, any strong thoughts about Michigan-Louisville? Or you
It's
just,
gonna
you just
happen.
want to
No,
say it is going to happen?
I mean,
you think it's going to happen?
You say you don't believe in momentum. That's
Yeah.
fine. But it's sort of why I asked you, do you believe in magic? And I was like, Michigan,
Yeah, you like the magic.
Michigan has that little sprinkle.
Okay.
I think they really had a great tournament run. Maybe they are overperforming.
Sure.
I mean, really, maybe
That's
they
okay.
are. But who cares if they do it in March? I think that's a story that the country could rally around.
Galvanizes, sure.
Yeah.
Nick, Michigan-Louisville?
Well, remember, Michigan still has to beat Oklahoma State.
That's very
You're already
true.
saying that.
That's true.
That's
You guys are-
absolutely.
and
that
by
is
the way-
Juwan
game.
Evans, a legitimate star.
Oklahoma State scores more points per possession than UCLA does.
This is true.
They are the most efficient offensive team in the country. They started out poor. I think they started out like 0-6 in the Big 12.
Right.
And they've turned it around, much like Iowa State has. And that conference it's a very tough conference. So they're kind of a 2, maybe a 3-man show, but Juwan Evans is a very good player. He may have elevated himself to being able to declare early for the draft, and he controls the ball. So if you have your best player with the ball, you have a shot.
Ricky, do you agree that they are 2.5-man show? Is that good enough to go maybe to the Sweet 16 if you're Oklahoma State?
I think Oklahoma State, Michigan's a coin flip. Obviously, Juwan Evans, stud. Michigan, can they carry over the non-existent momentum that doesn't exist?
Magic.
They push that in. But if we're talking about either of these teams against Louisville, I got to go with the athletes. And Louisville is Donovan Mitchell. If you haven't seen Donovan Mitchell, this is going to sound sacrilegious, but I will say it. He's a Russell Westbrook level athlete. He can fly.
I love it.
He
Now,
can
go
fly.
for it.
6'3", kind of similar build to Westbrook. Again, the question is sort of the jumper. He's short for shooting guard, but he is unbelievable athletically. And give me the athletes.
I like Mitchell too, but he's not Russell.
He's a Westbrook level athlete.
Yeah.
I like it. So who do we have coming out of this region? I'm going to kick it off with the correct answer, the Oregon Ducks.
Oregon
That's just
Ducks.
how things are going to play out.
I had them as a Final Four team, but not anymore.
That's
I'm
fine.
Sorry.
I can't wait for them to prove you wrong.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm sticking with Oregon.
Yeah. Ricky,
Kansas all the way.
what is it about Kansas? Let's talk about the Jayhawks because they come in with just great players almost
Yeah.
across the board. They're not as big as they once were, but what is it about Kansas
You remember
that is
my
so impressive?
2 point guard stat from
I do
earlier in the
remember.
show? They have 2 point guards, Devontae Graham, Frank Mason. Frank Mason might be the player of the year nationally. Devontae Graham, I think, one of the more underrated players in the country, takes nothing off the table, shoots well, defends well, passes well. They also have a top 5 NBA draft pick in Josh Jackson.
They do.
He's not going to be suspended for the NCAA tournament like he was for the Big 12 tournament. If you want a player comparison for Josh Jackson, how about Andre Iguodala, someone who is a lockdown defender, great passer, just the type of guy you want to go to war with. I really like this Kansas team in general. They got plus shooting, a little weak in the middle, but they got the shooters, they got the guard play, they got the great coach. I'm rolling with the Jayhawks.
I'll sign off on that player comparison too. That's good.
Do you like that?
That's much more accurate than Mitchell and Russell Westbrook.
Only his jumping ability.
I like that a lot. Let's go to the Midwest. Excuse me, we were just in the Midwest. Let's go to the South. This appears to be the toughest bracket, toughest region in the bracket. We might have the most intriguing first-round game, maybe a little bit under the radar, in Dayton-Wichita State. 2 really good coaches. Archie Miller looks like he is a coach that is going to end up somewhere soon that perhaps is bigger than Dayton. Wichita State, Greg Marshall has had the opportunity, but he's a big name because of what the Shockers have done recently. So in terms of this matchup, Ricky, what makes sense to you?
I thought both these teams could go to the Elite Eight.
Wow,
before the
I
bracket
like
was
it.
announced. Like, I really like both these teams. Dayton's got a lot of my Chicago guys. I got to rep for the hometown. Scoochie Smith. Just hearing Bill Rafford
Wonderful name.
say the name
Scoochie.
Scoochie Smith, it just fills you with so much life. I have to go with Wichita, though. Wichita was so impressive in the Missouri Valley Conference title game against Illinois State. It's a team with no one averaging 12 points a game, but everyone carrying their weight. 5 guys averaging over 9 points a game. Marcus McDuffie is sort of the breakout player here. In an NBA that always wants sort of 3 and D wings, McDuffie, 6'8", good athlete, good defensive player, shoots the 3 ball pretty well. They also have Landry Shamet, who's kind of a breakout freshman for them. I like this Wichita State team in general, and I got him over Kentucky in the next round, too.
Wow, I like that. Oh. I like that a lot. I like the onions, your Bill Raftery onions. Kareth, what jumps out to you about this region in general? Matchup-wise, team-wise, you have North Carolina with talent, Kentucky and Malik Monk.
This is where UCLA is, and
yes.
I want to see how well they do. Because we talked about there are 3 Pac-12 teams, and potentially 3 of them could make it to the Final Four.
Yeah.
So if you want to see that high-flying offense, if you want to see an offense that scores more than 90 points a game, if you want to see Lonzo Ball before he goes in the NBA draft, keep an eye on UCLA.
I like that.
They have my assists, too. #1 in assists in the Pac-12.
Nick, Middle Tennessee State, a team who sort of drew a ton of attention last year. They have Minnesota early. Minnesota, a pretty terrific story in terms of what they've been able to do, turning around this program from a pretty low point. Does Middle Tennessee State meet your criteria?
Yes.
Why?
They are the ideal pick. Yes. 12-5, right. It happens every year. And there may be more than one, but I think if you had to pick a 12-5, this is the one. Take Middle Tennessee State. They fit all the buckets. They check all my boxes.
Okay.
They play slow. They shoot. They play good defense. I think Minnesota.
They've been here.
They've been here. Yeah. I mean, they did it last year. They beat Michigan State, and so they're even better than last season. And they're playing a Minnesota team that, again, very well coached. I think they've had a pretty good year. They've exceeded expectations, but they don't have a ton of experience. So this is kind of a pick 'em in terms of just what these people have been exposed to in March. So I think you got to go Middle Tennessee State.
All right, of the top teams, Kareth mentioned UCLA. Kareth, they're high flying. They'll get potentially Cincinnati in the second round. Do you feel like they've been tested in a Pac-12 that was, I'd say fair to say, top heavy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go all Bill Walton on everybody.
Conference of Champions.
No,
do
it.
Please do. No.
Pac-12 is competition in its own.
Yes.
So, yeah, I think they've been tested. Yeah, I think they want to live for these big moments. And I think they want the nation to see their turnaround. They had 15 wins last season. They didn't make the postseason. Now it's their party. Now it's their time.
Defense is the issue for the Bruins, but they've improved recently, but certainly teams have been able to be cold from outside like Oregon was against them and still almost win. Is this UCLA team complete enough to make a deep run?
I hope so. We're saying if they ran into Cincinnati, maybe that would be an issue as far as...
Yeah, I mean, I think Cincinnati is a very good defensive team, and they don't get enough respect. That will be an interesting game. It's not a gimme for the Bruins if they get there.
I like this UCLA team. I think the game we all want to see in this bracket, UCLA versus North Carolina, if that happens, that would be an awesome contrast in styles. Carolina, very balanced, right? Real solid offense, real solid defense. UCLA, they're all in on the offensive side of the ball. Defense, who needs it when you hit as many three-pointers as they do? I think this is going to be the Lonzo Ball show. I'm all in on Lonzo Ball. He's been the most special player in the country throughout the season. He's a basketball savant, if you haven't seen him play. He's a genius. He's thinking 2 steps ahead of everyone else on the court. This is his stage. Markelle Fultz isn't in the NCAA tournament. Lonzo Ball is. If NBA fans are looking for a player to scout for June's draft, all in on Lonzo Ball.
And Lonzo Ball has the wonkiest shot of anybody.
He does, and it works.
It's sort of like cocked, like he shoots across his own face.
But he doesn't come all the way.
The release is like right here.
Like you can go all the way up, and
it's quick. It comes out quick.
Stops right here. I mean, it's angled.
He's at his.
Is there the potential for, and we've seen it throughout the year, it was a little bit inconsistent, the Malik Monk show from Kentucky. When he gets going, he's as exciting a player as we've seen this college basketball season. The problem is he does not string together those games consistently. Do you see that happening?
Ask North Carolina about Malik Monk. He dropped 47 in 8 3-pointers.
That's not bad.
That was the best individual performance of the season for my money. I just love watching Malik Monk play basketball. I don't know how he's going to translate to the NBA. I don't know if he's going to go cold in an NCAA tournament game. I do know that when he's on top of his game, he's just must-see TV. Love watching Malik Monk paired in the backcourt with De'Aaron Fox. That's the most exciting guard combination in the country.
But you don't think it will be enough?
I mean, it could be, but
you on the spot.
You know what? This Kentucky team, I do think their defense isn't reliable enough. I think Monk's their only shooter, so he better be hitting 7 threes a game if they're going to be winning these games. I don't know. I don't see a big round for this Kentucky team.
They have a lot of landmines. I mean, Wichita State, Dayton even. I mean, the winner of that game is going to be a problem for Kentucky no matter who it is. And then they got to play Cincinnati, likely, or UCLA. I mean, there are good teams in the bottom of that bracket. It's going to be really tough. This is the most exciting region, without question.
And North Carolina, the 1 seed, certainly they have stars. They, put the ball in the basket consistently. Defensively, maybe some questions, but is this North Carolina team under the radar? Should they be the 1 seed? I mean, obviously, winning a tough ACC is impressive, but we talk about, everybody seems to be talking about UCLA and Kentucky because of the talent level. Are we overlooking North Carolina?
I think so. I mean, I think this is a better three-point shooting team than last year that went to the national championship game. Joel Berry's filled in really nicely for Marcus Page. I think we thought there was going to be a huge gap in that, and he's filled in really well. He's been a really good transition for them. They have 2 really good players. They have Barry, Justin Jackson, and they have a lot of bodies after that.
Pieces, yeah.
And they're good pieces, and they're my pick to win this region, but I don't think it's a gimme. I mean, there's a lot of talent across the board in this region. It'll be really interesting.
It's cool for North Carolina in a time where everyone goes all in on small ball. North Carolina is Kennedy Meeks, Isaiah Hicks in the front court. Great offensive rebounders. They are just going to control the paint in a way that a lot of teams aren't going to be able to match up with those active bodies. We'll see if, going against the grain works out for them.
Yeah, you'll see some blocks, you'll see some dunks. I mean, that's a team that can really bring it off.
And the offensive rebound is just out of control good for the Tar Heels, which is something that nobody wants to see.
It makes you confident. Shoot a lot of shots because you're going to get the ball back. You're going to get extra chances to score.
Those active guys in the paint are just ridiculous. So who do we have coming out of this region? Kareth.
I have UNC beating UCLA.
Nice.
I have UNC only because I think that path to the Elite Eight is very easy. So, I'm just taking my chances that they're going to make it.
Fair enough, Ricky?
UCLA, greatest show in the sport when they're rolling. Bryce Alford, great season of redemption for him. Aaron Holiday. It all comes back to Lonzo, though. I really like this UCLA team.
And we haven't even mentioned TJ Leaf, Thomas Walsh, both really good players that complement Lonzo Ball and force teams to sort of shy away from him because they do have so many weapons. I'm going UCLA as well. So if you're keeping track at home, that is 3 Pac-12 teams in my Final Four because that's how I ride. So now that you've heard my wrong pick, let's go to the focus group for the conclusion of their 100% correct uninformed picks.
The University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill.
My boyfriend goes there.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
Minnesota.
They're the Golden Gophers. Is Minnesota.
Guys, we need some Gophers.
Oh, this is a big one.
Kentucky versus no Kentucky.
No
Kentucky.
That is Kentucky versus Northern Kentucky.
No, I think it's a foot.
It's a foot?
It's a foot that's dipped in tar.
Is it really a foot in tar?
I think so.
We've closed out the South bracket, UCLA making it to the Final Four.
I see Gonzaga Final Four
Yeah,
all the
they're
time.
always so good.
They are the 1 seed.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds like a
I'm
cheese.
glad you guys didn't
sounds
give
like a
me
cheese,
any.
That's the whole time.
You're thinking of Gorgonzola.
We've established VCU, good art school, and then back up to Gonzaga versus West Virginia.
I trust in the cheese.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like cheese.
That is the school slogan of Gonzaga. Trust in the cheese. It's not all ones. Our Final Four is 1 seed Villanova, 1 seed Gonzaga, UCLA, who are not a 1 seed, and then our biggest upset is Creighton making it all the way to the Final Four. Well, so now we got
idea.
A school I've never heard of until this moment,
But now I love.
now I love them so much.
Creighton seems like a Cinderella story. But
Yeah.
It might
Yeah.
end a little early.
certainly in our narrative, they are a Cinderella story.
I'll go UCLA.
Okay.
I'll tie break.
So
I'll
that
tie
is
break.
3-1, we have UCLA. We have to pick the national champion between 1 seed Gonzaga and UCLA. Gonzaga, I will mention, has made it this far because their name sounds like a cheese.
I'm gonna be honest, now I see it in the final, I don't like it.
Yeah, no, same way.
So I prefer UCLA, just because it sounds like it should win.
Yeah. Yeah! Go
National
Bruins.
champions, UCLA. This is our bracket. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
You're
It's
welcome.
amazing.
I really want cheese. I really, after watching that, I would like a quesadilla. I don't know if anybody else is feeling similarly, but good to know. I have filled out my
That's
bracket
just how much
accordingly.
respect Gonzaga gets.
That's just
Cheese.
how much respect they get. So
Gonzaga.
now that we've revealed our Final Fours, let's start with you, Kareth. Who's your national champion?
Oh, hate it. Arizona, though.
Arizona.
You hate it? I took Arizona.
No, I know I do, but
I have
do you
Arizona.
ever
Okay.
get to Final Four and you're like, I don't know if I don't know.
A couple.
Easy
We're
path,
locked
team of
in.
destiny. I think Sean Miller breaks through, and this is his year.
I like Kansas. I think
Kansas.
Kansas is the shooting. They've got the guard play. They got the coach. What's not to like about Kansas?
I like it. Number 1 seeds and number 2 seeds.
Who do you?
You?
I'm going Villanova. I'm going chalk back to back. I'm going Jay Wright, the best dressed man in college basketball.
So George Clooney of basketball.
I'm going George Clooney of basketball. So I'm going, yeah, it's not an exciting pick, but Oregon makes it to the championship game and loses to Villanova, even without Chris Boucher. How about that? Oregon, if nothing else, that's a school that knows how to lose in a championship game. That's hurts my heart. With that, let's welcome in Mike Quinn, our gambling expert, because listen, what is the March Madness experience without putting a couple dollars on the game? So Mike, where to you, and welcome to the show, where is there value in this opening round?
Well, good evening, everybody, and to all the college basketball fans out there, happy holidays, because this is the best week of the year for sure. So in terms of value, well, that's a great question. Well, there's a couple individual games here in round one that I wanted to talk to you guys about, and the first one off the top is actually involves one of my favorite teams in college basketball. One team that no one talks about is the Nevada Wolfpack. Team is very well coached. They are very upperclassmen heavy. They're very balanced, and they're catching 6 points against Iowa State. And that's a great spot, too. You got an Iowa State team hot off the Big 12 title, very emotional situation over the weekend. Now they have to regroup, travel, and face a very difficult and very tough Nevada team. I'll tell you right now, not all books offer it, but if you can find a book that offers Nevada to get to the Sweet 16, I think there's some great value there. They've got a pretty good path. The next round game would be against either Purdue or Vermont. We can get into 4-13 matchups in a little bit. But I love this Nevada team. Anyone who's been following me on Twitter knows I've been talking about them since October and November in the preseason. Very solid team. And not a great matchup for them against Iowa State. I was hoping for someone else,
right,
but still very favorable matchup and a lot of value there at +6 for sure.
And you definitely like the 4 versus 13. That is where your eyeballs are glued.
Well, I think this year specifically, if you look at the 4 line this year, I think these 4 teams are very susceptible to losing, with the exception of West Virginia. I like West Virginia a lot. They're ranked number 5 in the KenPom ratings, and anyone that's in the know of college basketball, the RPI is garbage. KenPom's where it's at when you talk about advanced metrics and advanced analytics and rankings. So he's got West Virginia ranked 5th. I've got a big future on West Virginia from the preseason, +3,500.
Wow.
But on the 4 line specifically, though, all the talk in the media is always about 5-12, and deservedly so. Just blind betting the 5-12, or taking the 12, would have cashed 55% of the time ATS in the last 21 years. Very profitable move. On the flip side, on the 4-13, they're cashing the dogs, typically the dog, obviously, is going to be the 13, at 46% over the last 21 years. 17 out of those 38 wins were outright, so they're hitting at about a 20% win rate. So not necessarily as strong as a 5-12, but what I'm trying to highlight for everybody is that there is value. If you can dig a little bit deeper, you can find some really good 13 seeds. Look at last year. Hawaii beat Cal as a 13-4. So there's always some value there with the 13s. And like I said, I think this year, if you look at the 4 lines, you're looking at Florida, you're looking at Purdue, you're looking at Butler. The teams they're facing are all teams that could knock them off for sure. I mean, you're looking at a Vermont and East Tennessee team ranked 63rd and 64th, respectively, in the KenPom rankings. And those teams are catching close to double digits. You're talking about 9, 10, 11 points in those 3 matchups I just mentioned. So, again, deservedly so, 5-12's got a lot of media attention. But 4-13, if you dig a little bit deeper, there's a lot more value. And you sprinkle a little bit on the money line, they pay a little bit more than what you're going to get against the 5-12.
All right, and let's stay with value and the futures. What to you is grabbing your attention in terms of looking forward and even to the national championship? Where is there value as we look forward these next few weeks with futures in the national championship?
Well, 2 things. I guess let's talk about just winning the regions. I was shocked to hear one of your panelists talk about SMU earlier. I mean, you listen to any of those fraud experts on ESPN or any of those other channels that are typically in the bag for the big schools and the big conferences. No one's talking about SMU. I'm talking about SMU. I'm glad you guys are talking about SMU.
That's right.
To win the East, I think there's some value there, +750. To win the national championship, I just actually put a wager on them earlier today at +5,000 or 50-1. Same thing, just different ways of talking about it. To win the national title, they're a team that could definitely give Duke some problems, definitely give Villanova some problems if they get that far. Same thing with Virginia, and they're 6th seed, and they're kind of getting lost in the mix. And I was shocked that you guys even brought them up. In the Midwest, I want to talk about a team again that no one's talking about, Rhode Island at +3,300. when you're betting futures, you don't necessarily are betting the team that you think is going to win. You're looking for the value in a number on a specific team. And Rhode Island's got a ton of value at 33-1 to win that region. They're a team that's ranked in the top 25 at the beginning of the season, deservedly so, decimated by injuries earlier in the year. And what you've seen out of Rhode Island in the last 3 or 4 weeks is what you would have seen the entire season. I mean, they are a very good team. And they are primed and ready to go. They're starting to peak at the right time. And as 11th seed, they're going to be very, very sneaky. And I like them against Creighton straight up. And I like them to potentially make a little bit of a run here in the tournament for sure. In the South, you guys have mentioned about UCLA. I love UCLA. I've got a future on them from preseason at plus 9,500. They're down all the way down to plus 1,500 right now to win the title, plus 500 to win the South. You talk about Wichita State. There's a team that's ranked 8th in the KenPom rankings and got obviously shafted here with a bad seeding, but I don't think it really matters too much. They're plus 10-1, plus 1,000 in the South to win that region. And then you head out west. And we talked about West Virginia earlier. I like them a lot. They're plus 500. Florida State, a team that clearly has not played their best basketball as of late, but they can get back to where they were earlier in the year. That is a really dangerous team. That's another team I've got a preseason future on at plus 17,000 or 170-1. They've dropped all the way down. I think I just saw today down to like 20 or 25-1 to win the title, plus 750 to win the West. They're a very dangerous team. You guys mentioned Jonathan Isaac earlier in the show. He's a great talent, going to be a lottery pick. And Notre Dame, you guys talked about it also earlier in the show, made back-to-back Elite Eights. Mm-hmm. Why not? At plus 1,400 to win the West. They got the right mentality. They got the right coaching. They got the right chemistry in that team. Maybe they make a run as well. But, SMU, another team that we talked about earlier, plus 5,000 to win the title. And then Arizona. I know a couple of you guys have picked Arizona. I like them too. At plus 1,000 right now, or 10-1. Not a bad move.
All right, give me the one value pick for the national champion that people should jump on.
Ooh, well, I mean, I guess I got 3.
Okay, hit me.
UCLA at 15-1.
Yep.
Arizona at 10-1, and SMU at 51.
I like it. Mike Quinn, thank you very much for your time and good luck. I hope everybody watching makes bajillions of dollars and gets their haircut at Great Clips, obviously. All right, so obviously people are into the NCAA tournament for like 2 or 3 reasons. 1, they filled out a bracket and they want to beat their friends or coworkers.
Yeah.
2, they're a fan of one of these teams and they want to see them win as often as possible and beat as many good teams as possible. Or 3, it's just really fun to watch college basketball. It's a TV show. It's great. So in terms of pure fun, since we've gone over the bracket, we've gone over the players, we've gone over gambling, we've gone over different teams, who's fun in this tournament? Which players, which teams, which styles, which coaches are you looking forward to as a TV show? We'll start with you, Ricky.
Got to go back to UCLA. I think that just the way they spread the floor with shooters, people don't realize Lonzo Ball's playing power forward on defense. That's how many guards they play at the same time. 4-guard attack with TJ Leaf as a center who shoots threes. They're all in on offense, and I think that that's what makes the most entertaining brand of basketball. Up and down tempo, 3-point heavy, star player with Lonzo Ball. That's what you're looking for.
Nick.
I mean, he's right. You got to watch the bottom half of the South region. You can't miss any of those games. UCLA, Kentucky, Dayton, Wichita State. I mean, that's my pick. I mean, you can't miss any of that.
I'm right there with UCLA, but I also have to say Duke.
Yes.
It's kind of like a love 'em or hate 'em thing.
Yeah.
And I don't think you should necessarily hate Duke, but they have all of anybody.
You got to watch.
Yeah, they're appointment television.
All right, I'm going to go with the Pac-12 teams. We've already talked UCLA to death. I'm going to say Juwan Evans. I always like when a player takes his team. We saw a few years ago, I think it was 2011, Kemba Walker and UConn. I don't think Oklahoma State's going to the Elite Eight. I don't think they're going to the Final Four. But the fact, I like star power. I like it's John Collins at Wake Forest.
Yeah.
Like guys like that will put a team on their back like, oh, Wake Forest is in the Sweet 16?
That's a story. There's a big story that can be told.
I like that. I like Ethan Rapp at Wisconsin. I like guys like that are just... They're bigger. They're able to sort of transcend. Karnowski at Gonzaga. The Gonzaga story is wonderful. And Trier, after what he's able to do and what that Arizona team looks like coming back, press Virginia. They're not going to lose by 50 to Kentucky this year. I'm positive that is not going to happen. So stuff like that. I like the teams that have that definitive focus. Like, I don't want to watch Purdue. I just don't. Just because, like, oh, they're disciplined and they play sound defense.
Caleb Swanigan, man. There's your star.
I know.
2020.
That's true. That's a fair point, but I like the teams. Like UCLA is overwhelming. SMU has star power. I like those stories. So that to me is going to be the fun of this tournament. Melo Trimble's back for a 34th year at Maryland.
Nice to Melo.
I'm going to be nice to Melo. I hope Melo wins a national title. It'll be fantastic.
Fear the turtle.
But yeah, is Randy Gregory still at St. Mary's?
Yes.
Yeah, that's incredible too. So. yeah, it's a TV show. Let's have some fun and enjoy the NCAA tournament. Thank you very much to Ricky O'Donnell, to Nick Fasula, and of course to Kareth Burke. And thank you to Great Clips. The show is presented by the wonderful, wonderful Great Clips. Listen, it's going to be great. I need a haircut. Look at this thing. I need to go to Great Clips, and I need to manage this poof. I need to manage this poof. Got to go to Great Clips. So thank you very much for watching the SB Nation War Room Live. Enjoy the tournament. We'll see you soon.